Right, this is Nigeria. This is Africa's finest breakfast show, Daybreak Nigeria. My name is Anthony Momodi. Welcome to today's edition, and it promises to be super exciting. Good morning.
Good morning. It's a tax Thursday, right? But now saying
Definitely.
it's throwback Thursday. All right, my name is Cynthia, but today promises to be super amazing, like Anthony said. And of course, we have a whole lineup for you, even though it seems to be a very, very sad one, looking at the things happening in Benue State. So probably we'll just start with our consent for today.
Yeah, definitely. And Tax Thursday reminds you that you have to go out there, pay your tax, redeem your tax, because we know the federal government has given June 30th as the deadline for those who have defaulted in the past to pay up their taxes. And that's the only way the federal government of Nigeria can provide the basic amenities for you and I. And like she says, we're beginning with our concerns for today, which stands from, do you call it terrible? Do you call it wicked, heartless killings going on in Benue State? And it's truly appalling. And this is calling on all security agencies. We know the Nigerian army have been doing a very great job trying to keep us safe from harm, but we need them to do more. And
in Benue State, it's really, really a pathetic one because they don't even know who to run from. Is it the army? Is it the headsman? Because right now, as we're speaking, before we came on, I was looking at a video and I could see them offloading the bodies. It's really, it's a gory sight. It's something you would not want to start your day with. And I must say that wherever it is, I heard that the governor is in faraway China, and he said he'll be back today. But I don't think that if your state is in such a condition, you should even think of being outside the shop. That you should be able to be there to see what possibly are you doing there? Are you doing business? Like, what are you doing? Because when the state is not in good shape, you shouldn't even be doing any business right now.
I think he's going to get more stakes by the time he comes back and we don't hear of any concrete deal with the Chinese counterparts. Then we know that he's truly not the right man to, govern his people. We remember what happened just a week ago when Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa cut short his very strategic meeting with the Commonwealth leaders because of the violence that was occurring in South Africa. That's the way to go, and we hope that this killing, somehow we're going to find an end to it. And for now, our heart goes out for those who have lost loved ones right there in Benue State.
All right, today our topic will be talking about ending strikes in the health sector, and we have our guest, Dr. Jennifer Brimah, and we also have looking at the policy.
The debt profile of Nigeria, and we'll be having Jaiye Gaskiya to come talk to us as regards that. And but before we get into that, some of our concerns we have shared with you already. So it's time for us to hit the foreign scene. So we'll give you the biggest stories making the rounds.
All right, so the Democratic Republic of Congo Opposition Group hold rally for the first time.
All right, let's go to North Korea and tell you that the North Korean Kim Jong-un is set to meet Moon Jae-in at the Korean border for summit.
Those names, Kim Jong-un,
Moon Jae-in, yeah.
Sounds musical. All right, WhatsApp has raised the age limit for users to 16 years.
All right, Facebook earnings soar despite data breach of scandal.
And Macron attacks nationalism in a speech to U.S. Congress.
Sky bidding war erupts with a $22 billion former offer from Comcast.
Nicaraguan police have released thousands of students and lecturers arrested in protests triggered by planned changes to the social security system. Some students say they had been beaten and tortured by police while in custody. The claims could not be independently verified. Images on our social media showed some visibly distressed and with their heads shaved as they were released, and at least 25 people are reported to have died in days of violent protest.
Let's go to the U.S. and tell you that California police have arrested a former police officer for a notorious spree of murders, rapes, and burglaries in the 1970s and 80s. Sacramento police say the arrested suspect, Joseph James DeGello, 72 now, the suspect has been living in the Sacramento area and was identified after new efforts to solve the case. Investigators say police blame the so-called Golden State Killer for 12 murders, 51 rapes, and more than 120 burglaries. The Jello is being held on suspicion of 4 counts of murder. The 1978 deaths of Brian and Kate Magori in Sacramento, and in 1980 killings of Charlene and Lehman Smith in Ventura County. Prosecutors say additional charges are likely to follow.
And let's move on to the sports news. Reports say there is a tsunami of match fixing in the lower levels of the game.
And also, just to put you in the picture, last night Champions League first leg semi-final clash between Bayern Munich and
Real Madrid.
Ended up 2-1 in favor of the Galacticos from Spain, and that promises to make the second leg a true cracker. Ronaldo in the thick of things, scoring a very awesome, important goal for Real Madrid.
You know, that particular game, I was watching that game somewhere yesterday night, and immediately Real Madrid scored. It just seems like most people started standing up and they were like, no, I can't watch it. So I discovered that I was in the midst of Bayern Munich fans. So, but it was a fun game though.
They might not be Bayern Munich true fans, but just they're haters of Real Madrid, so they want Madrid to lose. So they thinking joining forces with the Galacticos, but Real Madrid showing they're truly worthy defending champions. So let's see how the second leg is going to feel like.
You know, I was talking to someone and the person said, I asked him, why don't you like Real Madrid? He said, because of Ronaldo. No, they said, what's that his name called? I said, Ronaldo. He said, yes, that guy feels himself too much. And I'm like, how do you mean? He said, anytime he scores, he does like this.
Yeah, he's a king of goals.
I'm like, but that is what it is.
Yeah,
you have to live with it.
He's one of the greatest players ever. And there's another stunning player, Asensio, in Real Madrid. That guy is awesome. I think he's got a very awesome future ahead of him. He's always in the thick of things. All right, it's time for us to leave the sporting arena and get to know our lovely country with the white, green colors.
How well do you know Nigeria? If you're faced with the questions that you have to million, what can you say about Nigeria? Now, Nigerian immigrants in the US are one of the most educated. Take
that to the bank and you will not be wrong. In 1984, you didn't need a visa to travel to the United Kingdom as a Nigerian.
At some point in the country's history, the North was the most literate part of Nigeria, with over 25,000 Quranic schools and over 250,000 pupils.
All right, the largest river in West Africa is the River Niger, with a span of 4,180 kilometers.
And the Niger Delta is the second largest delta in the world.
Makes Niger Delta truly awesome. The state of Taraba speaks more languages than at least 30 countries in the world. True.
Nigeria is a member of the British Commonwealth and the African Union.
The National Youth Service Corps began in 1973 and is still on.
Till date. You were born then, right? I think that was when you were born.
No.
In 1973?
No, I wasn't.
You're not born then?
No.
I was. Anyway, let's go to Knowing Africa.
Did you just lie?
I said Knowing Africa.
Okay.
Is that a lie?
No. Let's get to know Africa.
Good. Africa is home to over 1 billion people who speak over 1,500 different languages. 1 in every 4 of the world's language are spoken only in Africa.
Is your language part of it?
Yes.
What's your language?
Bouquet.
Okay. Okay, I take that. Africa's total size is roughly 11.7 square miles, representing about a fifth of the Earth's total land mass. This makes it larger than India, China, Mexico, and USA, and a huge chunk of Europe combined. Woo. That's awesome.
During the early Mesozoic era, Africa was attached to all the other continents to form one gigantic continental landmass called Pangaea. Pangaea later broke apart to form the world's continent as we know them today.
All right, despite Africa being the second largest continent in the world, it has the shortest coastline. This is due to many bays and edges that extend out of the coastline. What civilization began in Africa? And many say it's Egypt. I say it's Nigeria. All right, let's flip and flop.
Okay, flip, flop, flip, flop. When was Nigeria's flag designed?
All right. The next question is who was the second black African to become UN Secretary General?
Which delta is the second largest delta in the world?
Who was the first African to become the Secretary General of the United Nations? These questions, we need the answers on our social media handle, which, Cynthia, you'll be rolling out in due time.
Yes, I will definitely be doing that.
So we get to see how smart you are. All right, it's time for us to go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll be reviewing the big stories right here in Nigeria as we look at Nigeria's national dailies.
For almost a decade, the Nigerian army have given their all to ensure that our dear country is not overrun by Boko Haram insurgents. Some have in the process paid the ultimate price, while many will forever live with indelible scars occasioned by their determination to protect the country, no matter the hurdle. Despite these, they have remained resolute and undaunted, and today, all territories the insurgents once took control of have been recaptured and normalcy restored. And now, for the first time in a long time, the end of Boko Haram is foreseeable. Therefore, the wisest thing for the remaining insurgents to do is to surrender today or face total destruction from the army. Remember, the Nigerian army will stop at nothing to ensure that total peace is restored in all parts of the country. So, be wise and embrace peace today or get ready to be ruthlessly dealt with. This message is brought to you by the Coalition on Conflict Resolution and Human Rights in Nigeria.
All right, if you're just joining us, you're watching Africa's Finest Breakfast Show, Daybreak Nigeria, on television, Nigerian. It's time for us to look at the big stories making the rounds on just national dailies. But before we do that, there's something interesting that occurred yesterday when Dino Melai got some very prominent visitors in his hospital bed. On his hospital bed.
Okay, yeah, he got visited by his colleagues, yes, and they also, I think that it was actually a very, very good move, trying to show concern to your colleague, and it's a very good one. You know, Dino has been in, it has been a drama series for him right now, and we hope that he gets a quick recovery, and whatever disagreement, whatever it is that it is, would definitely be said to them. We hear stories that the National Assembly was shut down just for the senators to go and visit Dino. We've been seeing that on the papers. Definitely. That's
quite sad that we have to shut down our National Assembly activities, plenaries for, I don't think he's not there. It's what he got involved in was in a messy issue that does not deserve the National Assembly shutting down activities. Yes, it's good enough they're going to visit him, but from the pictures or the video on your screen, you could see the National Hospital, that's where they are, and I think that's the best facility you can take a senator to. You're sure of the quality of personnel that is going to handle his issues. But on the other flip side, the critics have said the National Hospital is a very good ally of the National Assembly, and so what it means is that whatever medical report that's needed to aid the senator. Okay, let's leave that discussion.
But are you not trying to say that it might just the doctor might just have to put some things that would favor the senator?
Some reports reaching us this morning did show us a litany of illnesses being suffered by the senator already, and the big question is how suddenly he's suffering up to 5 different illnesses just because he jumped out of a police moving van, which was on his own accord, which was wrong for him. He's trying to evade the long arm of the law. So, but in the coming days, we get to see what plays out. But
one thing you should not forget is that we all have things that we have in our body. Even as you're sitting right now, you might just be sick or something, and you have not yet realized it. But it gets to a point where you overstress. This is the body. You can't cheat the body. It gets to a point where you overstress the body, and then you go into, like, imagine him jumping out of a moving vehicle.
It's enough to.
And then you know, I can tell what was broken there, and then he gets it.
And that's the footage of the senator sitting on the floor after jumping out from the window at Area 1, right in the Federal Capital Territory. You look at his nice socks with the footwear, a very nice footwear. I guess you imagine, and he's not a face cap. It's,
yeah.
You know, it's so dramatic. I love him for his drama.
No. He was. I just feel that he
and
knows,
legs wide open. I wonder why.
Yes, because he's trying to relax. I could hear from that video, he was complaining of body pain. He was holding his waist. No person would jump out of a car and not feel waist pain or body pain. It's only normal. So he was trying to get balance. The only way to get balance is by opening your legs up.
Okay, Dino, we wish you well as you recover at the National Hospital. It's now time for us to dive into the newspaper. We start with the Nation's newspaper. The big stories there say court avoids the National Assembly's plan on polls. That big story on page 3 of the Nation's newspaper. Milaye's arrest forces Senate shut down. Page 9 is where you get the details of that big story. We've got Neymar, 2.4 billion naira Chinese donated rice intact. Page 7 is where you get that very awesome story. We've got Makemenaro linked with AC Milan job. Page 47 is where you find that. Outrage as gunmen kill 13 more in Benue village. Reps to summon Buhari knocks for service chiefs as can cause for protest. We've got Buhari backing of Oshemode Democratic, says Ganduje, the governor of Kano State, an alleged 322 million naira fraud. While Bushi remanded, and page 6 is where you get the details of that story. We've got a government hand no deal with Johesu, says minister, as Boko Haram men in custody. All right, let's go quickly to the outrage as government killed 13 more persons in Benue State.
Well, we can't talk too much about that because it is really sad. It's really disheartening. It's really pathetic. It's terrible. There is no word that can really express how the feeling is right now in Benue State. Presently, as we speak right now in Benue State, it's more like you can't move. You are just, you don't even know what to do because it's like it's entering into Makurdi town right now, and everyone is living in fear. Imagine a state where some villages are already
gone to China,
and the governor is in China. I don't think there is any business that is so important right now, because if you're getting that business, it's for the people of Benue State. So,
all right,
what's the use?
What's your take about the Senate shutting down because Dino?
I really don't know why they are making it look like it's a shutdown. Just for the fact that it's okay, let's go visit our fellow senator who is not feeling well. It's not a bad idea. So it's not like it's a shutdown. You just go to visit and come back. All
right, let's just take your views on Buhari backing Shomole. Ganduje says it's democratic. Do you see it that way?
The thing is, if he's not backing Oshomole, who was he supposed to back? Already he has removed his support from Oyegu, so he's only.
But making it obvious, is it democratic in your own view?
Making it. Well, I'm not the right person to say if it is democratic for him to do that or not. But I think that the president is a matured person, and definitely he knows what is democratic and what is not democratic. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he knows the consequences of whatever action that he's taking.
All right, let's go to the next paper.
The Punch this morning.
Nice one.
Yeah, so more attacks in Benue as reps summon Buhari. That is on page 7 and 5. Can direct Christians to hold protests on Sunday. And the protest in Senate over Buhari's $496 million aircraft purchase. That is on page 12. You'll find that story. And governors meet over Paris, refund stamp duties, others. That is on page 8. Lagos Ibadan Road, federal government okays 64 billion for bridges toll plaza. That is on page 23. Malaya Senate to grill IG on live TV today. That is on page 8. Judges don't need association. CJN insists. That is on page 41. Leaked white papers, website operators react, threatens Punchman. And LASG issues legal advice, okay's murder trial of Dane. That is on page 4. And we have something here says, again, revenue underpayment by NNPC forces FAAC meeting shift. That is some of the big stories we have on the Punch this morning. And if you go behind the Punch this morning, you definitely see some interesting story. We have something on the sports on page 47, Memorial 6, friendship with Benga. All right, so we have most of the stories that we had on
the nation's
yes,
newspaper.
Yes, and but just looking at the aircraft issue on Buhari, the protest in Senate over Buhari's 496 million aircraft purchase.
I think it's very genuine. It's the right way to go. It's controversial when the president approves, something that's going to be used in 2020 and the money is already released. It just tells you, it smacks of election 2020. It smacks of election 2019 in view. That's why that money was already released. So that so I think it's very controversial, and I want to see if the president is principled enough to come before the National Assembly and explain reasons why he did whatever he did. If he thought it was for national interest, feeling that maybe the next president might not follow the same direction, that's why he did it, then we can say yes to it. But if it's just strictly for selfish interest, then he has to get the knocks for it.
Okay, the decision has insisted that the judges don't need association.
Well, he must have his reasons. Probably he feels that as a professional body, it's professional enough. And if they had any issues that needed to be put forward, the NJC could do that for them, so they did not need further. And probably trying to deviate them from getting into politics. Because once you have a union, then you could become a pressure block. Probably he's trying to avoid that.
So do you really think that the protest that the Christians, Khan has directed Christians to hold on Sunday will definitely make any impact?
Yes, it would. Like they say, little drops of water makes an ocean or a river. So with those protests, it's going to form as a pressure to the government to be more responsive, knowing that, okay, this side of the divide is feeling like you're doing this on purpose because you're on the other side. Probably that will help and draw more attention. Because once it's done, remember the Catholic Church is a very strong member of the Khan Association. Sure. And what it means, they've got links with Rome, Italy, and once Italy is involved, the Vatican is involved, it's a massive plus for the push they're trying to achieve. Yeah,
but don't you think that this protest on Sunday might just lead to more killings?
Well, it only means that the Christians or Christian faith, they're going to be more careful. If you notice in the past, like 4 years back, security measures in churches were on the highest level alert. Sure. But recently it dropped, so they have to scale it up again. I think that's the way to go. All right, let's go to the Daily Trust. The big story is there. The rep says someone Buhari wants security chiefs sacked. That's on page 5 of the Daily Trust. We've got 34 killed in fresh attacks on Benue villages. Page 4 is where you find that big story. Trouble lies ahead in Borno as Sheriff rejoins APC today. Find details on page 5 of the Daily Trust. And we've got Senate adjourned sitting, summons IGP over Milai, and page 3 is where you get that story. APC shifts Congress's National Convention, page 13 is where you find that story. And Magnus Abe joins Rivers Guba race. All right, let's just go quickly to what the Senate is doing, adjoining sitting, summoning IGP over Milai. Do you think they're trying to, reach a truce with the IG? Because the IG also has had his own fair share of lashing from the National Assembly. Maybe they're going to reach a truce. Do you think that's going to be for the benefit of Nigerians?
Of course, definitely. The Senate won't just sit down and allow their colleague just go. He might not be the best of persons, but neither would they allow him to just go down. Definitely, they will have to get to reach an agreement, try to see how they can come together and talk about things.
But that's not. Is it good for the Nigerian people?
It might not be so good for the Nigerian people, but it all depends. You have to look at, okay, what has Dino has always been this person that talks for the masses at the Senate floor. So he has mostly spent all his talking for the Nigerian people. So if now he is in a situation where the Senate have to come in on his behalf, it is still for the Nigerian, because definitely we have someone there who is going to talk for us. So I think that if we look at the crimes that some people might want to say that Dino has committed, I think that he's. If you ask me, he shouldn't be hung for it.
All right, let's go to page 13. The big story there: APC shifting the congresses and the convention Does this give us a clue to how probably unstable the APC is ahead of 2019?
We've been hearing about the shift. You remember we had this very shifting in March, and now when April, we're still hearing about the shifting. And I remember I told you that I said
Shifting cultivation.
Exactly, yes. And I told you that I said we'll get to June and there will still be shifting, and so
All right,
it just shows how it's going over
just
there.
to get your views on trouble lies ahead in Borno, Sheriff rejoining the APC. PDP has always said Sheriff was a mole of the APC. Now he's rejoining the APC. Is he confirming it?
Of course, he's confirming it that he is.
He was a mole to destroy the PDP. All right, let's go to the leadership newspaper.
Leadership this morning. The big story in daring move, reps summon PMB over herdsmen's killings. This is on page 5. House shut down for 3 days. 42 killed in fresh onslaught on Benue communities. Yetiala vows to go after killer headsmen. NAS can't dictate election sequence to INEC court rules, and the court sends Nigerian senator to prison. You want to know who that Nigerian senator is? Go check out on page 38 of the leadership this morning. Senate suspends plenary summons IGP over Malaya for 2 years after Africa to host World Bank IMF annual meetings. That is on page 34. Those are some big stories we have there. You can also check the leadership to see more stories.
And I think I'm very impressed with Metiala saying they're going to go after the killer headsmen. That's going to make them look good in the public eye and prove to Nigerians that they're not part of the conspiracy.
But they've said it before. They've said it before. So why is this one different?
All right, let's keep our fingers crossed and watch. All right, let's get the sporting live, the big stories in the sporting arena. We've got Hala Madrid as Madrid beat Bayern away from home 2-1, and Ronaldo in the thick of things. Ronaldo and Asensio, the magic man, Spanish wonder youngster, scoring the 2 great goals for Madrid. All right, we've got Nigerian women are irresistible. This coming, Eagles coach says Pinnick backing him to pick a second wife. General, come towards the east, probably the north, maybe the south or west. We've got beautiful women there, truly. All right, we've got Eagles versus DR Congo friendly NFF inspects Abuja Stadium. And then we've got EPL best 30 players, Victor Moses, the 29th best player in the EPL. And we've got Real Madrid to propose Salah swap deal. Falcons open training camp in Abuja, May 10th. And we've got Ronaldo urges Madrid to sign £52 million rated Alaba. And we've got Barca wants Alonso. And the last story here, Manchester United closer to €349 million Neymar transfer. The Red Devils in the thick of things. Those are the big stories making the rounds on the Sporting Life. Go there, get a copy, and read more about your darling Super Eagles.
I'm really thinking at a point that the Sporting Life are deviating a bit, from sports.
Yesterday they told us
about
prostitutes
prostitutes
banned from the Super Eagles camp.
And now we're talking
And today,
about...
General, the Super Eagles coach, he wouldn't mind having a second wife who's a Nigerian.
I would have expected to see such headline on maybe the Sun or the Punch, and not Sporting Life. All right, the last paper here is the Daily Sun. As killings escalate nationwide, rebels blow hot. Someone Buhari. Rider here threatened to shut down National Assembly. Khan calls Christians out for protests as ACF demands pro-panel. That is on page 6 and 39. Opposition alleges plot to block accounts of states opposed to Buhari. That is on page 10. And lastly, I would want to say that 44 killed in Benue, Nasarawa. That is on page 6. And APC chair, Oyelu may step aside. That is on page 3. Go get a copy of the Daily Sun and you will see something on Amagwe tells our story, and also you see other interesting stories happening in Nigeria.
All right, that's how we wrap it up on looking at the big stories making the rounds on Nigeria's national dailies. My last question to you is, which part of the country do you want General to get a wife?
Come to Cross River State.
All right, General, now you know where to go. We'll go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll be discussing the strike in the health sector, how to stop it.
Welcome to Living Treasures Academy. enjoy a conducive and serene learning environment. Qualified and experienced teachers. Equipped computer laboratory and library. Secured atmosphere. Extracurricular activities. An all-embracing curriculum for total development of the child. Comprehensive education for leadership. Join us today from crèche to secondary levels. Living Treasures Academy, committed to excellence.
Information remains the bedrock in every stage of development. It develops both the human mind and the society at large. Television Nigerian is here to avail you with that information you need for all-round development through its mind-blowing programs such as news, talk shows, health and safety, governance and politics, sports, entertainment, kids, documentaries, finance, global happenings, human disposition from childhood to adulthood. It's a manifestation of what you see, what you hear and say. Tune in and stay tuned to TVN, Television Nigeria, broadcast beyond boundaries.
All right, if you're just joining us, you've missed the first half of the deal. We are watching Africa's Finest Breakfast Show. It's Daybreak Nigeria on Television Nigerian. And right now we have our guest right here with us. We have Dr. Jennifer Brimah, who will be helping us look into ending strikes in the health sector. And the big deal is the fact that the federal government, the minister this morning said the federal government had no deal with the joint health sector union, talking about Jaiye, and that makes the whole discourse more interesting. This strike action, most times people say the timing of the strike action is always faulty. But with the recent strike action, we have NMA saying they're not in support of Jaiye's strike action, and it is now looking like Jaiye versus NMA rather than federal government. What's the true position of things?
The thing is this: you can never choose a time to strike.
Okay.
The strike action comes after a lot of discussions have gone on, and there has been disagreement, or there has been a reneging of a former agreement, which is what is going on now.
All right.
Jaiye and NMA have always been at loggerheads, and that is because of what happened in 2009. I'll take you back there later.
All right.
Now, for the minister to come and say that there was no agreement, that is not a fact. There was an agreement in 2013 between the federal government and Jaiye. Jaiye had 3 demands. 1, we are understaffed. We need more members to work with us to reduce the work burden, because the remuneration given to us or given to them is not commensurate with the work that they put in. Now, but note this, whenever they go on strike, these monies that the federal government or the ministry says they do not have to pay the permanent staff, they somehow find the money to pay locum staff. And who is a locum staff? A locum staff is like an ad hoc staff, someone you employ on a temporary basis maybe when there's an emergency or there's a gap in employment, in the employment area going on. So you say, come help these people out for 2-3 months or for 1 year, and then you leave. So as I speak with you now, since the strike has been ongoing for about, 8-9 days now?
Yeah, started April 17.
Yeah. Oh, more than, this is 26, yeah?
Yes,
About that,
26.
okay? Now, you will not believe that they have locum staff filling in for Jehosu, the staff who are on strike. And this is the same federal government that said there's no money to make or to meet the demands that they made in 2013. Okay? Now, what is the problem between Jehosu and NMA? NMA is of the opinion that doctors, of course, NMA is Nigerian Medical Association, made up of doctors and dentists, right? Medical and Dental Council.
Council, yeah.
Okay. Now, they said that doctors should be paid more than the non-medical staff,
okay,
or the paramedical staff made up of the laboratory scientists, the pharmacists, and the other paramedical staff that are not doctors and dentists. Okay? They said because of the number of years you spend in school and the number of years you go to your residency and all of that, by the time you come in, even as an intern, you're already at like grade 11 or 12. The same thing as someone who is like a mid-executive in the Jehosu, substrata, right? Okay. Now, the least person in Jehosu earns like 120,000 skilled in Jehosu. Well, the skilled earn the normal minimum 18,000 naira, right? Okay. Now, they are saying you cannot equate the level of skill sets of a doctor and the level of skill sets of the people that make up Jehosu, right? Okay. Medical staff. And so they cannot, in all honesty,
be on the same
salaries or be on the same salary grade. That's the problem with NMA and Jehosu. Now, the other problem between NMA and Jehosu is that there's something that is called the CONMES and the CONHES. The CONMES is the Consolidated Medical Salary Structure, and you have the Consolidated Health Worker Salary Structure. That is for Jehosu and for NMA. Now, NMA had an upgrade of the CONMES salary, right? And Jehosu said, if you can do that for the doctors and the dentists, you should do the same for us. Now, that is where the problem is. Okay, so now we are understaffed. We want our CONMES upgraded just like CONHES upgraded just like CONMES, and then we also want our arrears
to be paid
because CONHES and CONMES came into being in 2009. So we want our arrears paid, and we want it upgraded by 20%. All right, and they are saying no, that cannot be. But the federal government agreed to pay the arrears in 2013, and instead give them a few weeks to get it together. A few weeks turned to 5 years.
Wow. And
this was signed. Jehosu signed, federal government signed. Give us a few weeks in 2013, and this is 2018, and they're saying they've had enough, they've been patient. It's not right, it is not fair. You cannot renege on an agreement that a roundtable was had and everybody agreed and signatures were penned. It's not right.
The federal government came out with a circular once the strike started and said equipment and hospital facilities should be protected, and also said patients, they should ensure patients are well taken care of, and told those to hand over, and also had the issue of saying they should revoke the section 43 cap 18 of the laws as regards the trade dispute. The fact that the federal government is trying to use that already, does that give us an idea of how stagnant the federal government is and might not be willing to budge the request of Jehosu, and implication means the strike might linger for as long as...
You know the thing, the federal government is being recalcitrant. They're being stubborn and they have reneged on the deal that was signed. You will not wake up in the morning and say you did not sign some document when you did sign some documents. Of course, this minister is not the guy who signed. So he can say, I did not sign it. But do not say the federal government did not sign, because they did sign. There's proof, there's evidence. Recording, print, everything is there. All right? Now, of course, you want to protect the equipment. These equipments don't cost. They are not cheap. They're not cheap. But the Jehosu staff are not going to vandalize the equipment. They're not going to prevent the equipment from being used. That is not what they are looking at, because they're still going to go back to their jobs at the end of the strike. They just want their equipment, what is due them, given to them. You cannot be working and not get paid. You have bills to pay. You have kids to feed.
But the federal government is saying they should enforce no work, no pay.
No.
How,
No work, no pay will not work.
if the NMA is in support of the federal government technically, and they decide to get the job done with the help of local staff, which the federal government has said employ already,
Yeah.
wouldn't that hamper
Tony,
Jesus?
the first rule of life is survival, isn't it?
Yes.
The enemy is working, is trying to survive, is trying to work to make sure that they are protected. It's the same thing that Johesu wants. The exact same thing that enemy wants is what Johesu wants. If you do not want to upgrade the salary, fine. Pay the arrears first. The arrears have been backlogged for 5 years. 2013. It's not right. You cannot say no work, no pay. That's not right. When teachers go on strike, when ASU went on strike, lecturers went on strike, they said they were going to revoke the same article. They didn't. ASU members went back to their classrooms. They were paid their salaries over the months that they were on strike, and they were paid their current salaries. Why can that not apply to the medical sector? This is an essential service that we're providing, that is being provided. Okay? I'm a member of NMA. I'm not a member of Johesu. I'm a medical doctor. But I know right from wrong.
Okay. We saw this morning on the news that the nurses are about to go on strike also. That strike they're about to go on, is it necessary?
Nurses are also part of Johesu.
So why are they just different?
Because if the nurses have said to the team leader or the president of Johesu, you guys, you go on strike first. Let's see what we can do, because nurses are supposed to be very empathetic, right? They do most of the basic work at the hospital. They give injections, they clean the poop, they clean everything, they help the women give birth. Let's stay back and do this thing, and let's see how the federal government will react. Right. Now, the federal government is doing this, what they're doing, they're being recalcitrant. So the nurses are saying, okay. So if we go on strike too, the impact will be felt more. And so maybe that will force the federal government to do something about it.
So after this whole strike action, what if the federal government, nothing comes out? Because already we've seen that no deal, it's been everywhere. Okay, we didn't have any deal down to like when the strike started, no deal yet. So what will then happen after all of this?
Something is got to give. Something is got to give, because a lot of people are going to die, and we do not want that. Whenever there's a strike, someone dies. You have emergency situations, nobody to take care. Look, doctors are trained to a certain level. You cannot do everything that the lab technician does, or what the nurses do, or what the medical record staff do. That is not part of our forte. That is not part of our training. We have a bit of an idea, even what pharmacists do. Of course, we prescribe the medications. We can go into the store and look for the medications where they have put it and give it to them. But what about the other job that you're supposed to be doing while the patients are waiting? You're supposed to consult, examine, and then do the needful. You cannot do everything together. So that is why there's division of labor. That is why we have the header that we have. That is why we have the different specialties that we have and the different sub-departments that we have. The federal government just needs to go back to the drawing board. Yes, we understand that they're going through a lot with the insurgency going on there, with the kidnappings over there, with the wrangling in the National Assembly, with the the herdsmen and the farmers clashes. A lot of things going on not right in the country. But that is why we have ministers. That is why we have ministries, departments and agencies. That is why we have different DGs and different subsectors of the parastatals, right? So whoever is assigned to do one task, please go and do your task.
All right, on the final note, let's look at, do we see NMA joining the strike action? Is that possibility?
Right now, there's no reason for NMA to go on strike.
What could make NMA join the strike?
What could make NMA go join the strike? If their due is not given, if for some reason their salaries are not paid, if for some reason the upgrade in the conmess is not made, or is not met, then they may go on strike. But right now, there's no reason for NMA to go on strike.
Is there any specific role the minister can play right now to bring the truce?
Yes, the minister can be the arbiter, can be the arbitrator between Johesu and the federal government. Because he himself is a medical doctor.
But we've not heard him come out to say anything. Is it strategic?
If you know the minister, you know he's someone who doesn't put his foot in his mouth. He's not just going to come and be in front of it when he doesn't have something positive to say that will allay the anxiety of everybody involved. When he has something concrete to say that is positive, he will come, and that way an impact will be made, a positive impact. So, but before we leave this show, we want to say to Johesu, keep your strike going. Your demands will be met. But think about the patients that are wallowing in the hospitals. We need you back. And federal government, please, honor your agreement. You cannot sign an agreement or agree to do something and then renege on it. That's not right.
All right, that's a patriotic view of Dr. Jennifer Brimah, giving the word of advice to the federal government and to her, so we hope her advice is here. And that's how we'll call this segment of another. Thank you very much.
Academy. Enjoy a conducive and serene learning environment. Qualified and experienced teachers. Equipped computer laboratory and library. Secured atmosphere. Extracurricular activities. An all-embracing curriculum for total development of the child. Comprehensive education for leadership. Join us today from crèche to secondary levels. Living treasure committed to excellence.
Information remains the bedrock in every stage of development. It develops both the human mind and the society at large. Television Nigerian is here to avail you with that information you need for all-round development through its mind-blowing programs such as news, talk shows, health and safety, governance and politics, sports, entertainment, kids, documentaries, finance, global happiness, human disposition from childhood to adulthood. It's a manifestation of what you see, what you hear and say. Tune in and stay tuned to TVN, Television Nigeria, broadcast beyond boundaries.
All right, welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak Nigeria on Television Nigeria, and it's now time for us to look at other trending issues. Right now, we'll be focusing on the Benue crisis, the recent killings that are still going on. This morning, we saw some gory pictures of Nigerians killed in Benue State by herdsmen, Fulani herdsmen, and forgetting the 2 Catholic priests who were also murdered some days back. Very sad story. We have in the studio Jaiye Gaskiya, one Nigerian who is likely or who is going to be standing as an independent presidential aspirant, and we have him here to look at that issue. Good morning. Awesome to have you in the studios.
Good morning.
Has preparations campaign going?
Tough.
All right.
Okay. But okay.
Okay, let's look at what's happening in Benue. The killings, we thought it was going to end after the president sent the Inspector General Police to Benue and all that, but we're still having lots of killings. What do you think is truly wrong?
I think that in Benue we need to look at several factors. and you cannot discountenance political factors. The fact that the Benue crisis is becoming very political, is becoming a tool or a weapon in the hands of politicians and political leaders from all sides. I remember a few years back, 2002 to 2003, again, when the Niger Delta insurgency was also starting. It was the same way, the same kind of dynamic and scenario that we were seeing. We were seeing youth groups being armed, competitively armed by political leaders, and some also, getting contracts from oil corporations to provide security for oil installations. And then we saw all of that coming together in the 2003 elections, which in the Niger Delta was more like a low-intensity warfare. So what we're seeing right now in Benue is that the Benue crisis is now being compounded by politics. It was a question, initially a question of criminality and impunity. When I say criminality and impunity, because people were getting away with crime. Criminality because crimes were being committed, and I mentioned you mentioned, and there are, like I said, there are a number of issues also involved there. Another issue is also the failure of leadership. Is that you have people, leaders, who are competitively speaking on behalf of one group or the other, rather than speaking on behalf of Nigerian citizens. I mean, if people are killed in Benue State, they are Nigerian citizens. So we should first of all talk about citizens who are being killed. It matters little whether they are Christians or Muslims. Nigerian citizens are being killed, and so we should address it as a question of how do we provide security for Nigerian citizens. Okay, so and that has failed, and that is failing because people are not rising up to the occasion of providing, that leadership. For the political elite, for example, in Benue State, if you are a political elite, you are a governor, you are in the executive, you are in the legislature, you are responsible for governing Benue State. But you are governing Benue State not just alone for Benue indigenes, but for every Nigerian who is resident in Benue. So you should be focused on how do you provide security for Benue and people who are resident in Benue, and that's a responsibility of both state and federal government, but more likely, given the work nature of our federation, federal government.
Now, looking at, just to wrap it up, the governor currently is in China.
Yeah.
Is that supposed to be the case?
Well, there's no way you could have predicted that this was going to happen. So yes, but because and that's it now. The killings have been going on, and the killings have become like an everyday ritual. Now, let me say this. Part of the challenge that we have in our country is that governance have become so personalized. So if a governor or a president is not in place, it therefore means that a state cannot be run, a country cannot be run. Now, if institutions are working, you do not need the physical presence of the head of the institution. All the head of the institution needs to do is to provide leadership. And leadership can be provided from anywhere in the 21st century, Nigeria. There are things where you don't get it wrong. I've heard, there's this stereotype that we've been talking about. We've talked about herdsmen, and let's for the moment remove the word Fulani, because Fulanis are not the only people who herd cattle, but let's do that. But when we say herdsmen, and my argument has been that, it's a convenient narrative for both those who are perpetrating the violence and those who claim to be talking on behalf of the victims. It's a convenient narrative that does not address the issues.
What should be the better one?
So, this is it. A herdsman, the herdsman that you and I see on the road every day, you are with 100 cattle, for example. Okay? You are with 100 cattle. It is virtually impossible for those kind of herdsmen to attack a community and disappear with their 100 cattle. You understand? So what this means is that there is a criminal syndicate who may be herdsmen, but who are no longer herdsmen but they have become a criminal syndicate that are hired to provide security or to go on vengeance missions for, herdsmen and the rest of that. And if you don't understand it that way, then you can't begin to put in the machinery in place to actually address, the situation. So sending the Inspector General of Police to Benue State is not the issue. The issue is, are you deploying effective security? Now, there is an army operation in Benue. There is the police in Benue, but you are not seeing coordination. The military and the police are not working together. They are not coordinating together. They are not deploying together. Because if they are coordinating, then they should be enough. We should be able to say, okay, your own duty is to make sure you disarm and these people don't come in. And the police is that protect, communities and the rest. And if you are working in sync and you are relying on intelligence, then we shouldn't get to a situation where these attacks continue to happen. And that's why I say that there's now a political element and dimension to these attacks. That they have continued to persist means that there is an interest that is not allowing institutional responses to work.
Okay. Given all of this that you said as we wrap up, what would be your final word to the governor? And the whole federal government also?
I think that for me, what is happening is very clearly an indication of the failure of governance, both at the federal and state level. Governance has failed. Right. So I'm not sure whether we can actually ask these people to do anything. But citizens, Benue residents and Nigerian citizens that are in Benue, they need to become more vigilant. I'm even thinking that we need the kind of thing that we had with the civilian JTF. So our neighborhood watches and community vigilantes, the community should focus on them in terms of strengthening them, giving them support so that they can act.
In terms of arms? Not
necessarily arms. You don't need, our vigilantes don't necessarily use arms to deal with crime in our neighborhoods. They don't. What they rely on is intelligence gathering, is people knowing their neighbor, monitoring strange movements and the rest of that, and then accosting people before crime is committed. And I think that we need to integrate these community-based instruments for security into our security architecture if we are going to be able to solve some of these crimes. And the greater challenge is also that now when vigilantes arrest people and they hand them over to the police, then what happens? You get it? Which is usually why then communities take law into their own hands and do mob action, because they know that if we hand them over to the appropriate authorities, then nothing appropriate will happen. So they take the law into their hands. So you can see that we are really dealing with a failure of institutional mechanisms here, and that's what we need to do. But the governor should sit up. He cannot continue to complain. It is his responsibility. He may say he does not have direct control over the police and the rest of that, but he should do what some other states have done. He should do, for example, how is it that governors don't have control over police, but in some states they have created ISBA forces. In Lagos State, they have created a Lagos Neighborhood Watch that is uniformed, that is funded by the state, and then collaborates with the police. So he should think of providing, because, by the way, our constitution also says that the state houses of assembly have the duty to legislate for the peace, security, and good governance of their state. The moment it added security, it means that you can do, this kind of thing. So there's a loophole for you to be able to do what you need to do. Put your own house in there.
Security vote.
Exactly. Yeah, because every governor gets a security vote. What do you spend your security vote on if you cannot spend it on this kind of issues and the rest of that? So do this, institutionalize security in your state, and then you can begin to now talk of the fact that, okay, the federal government is not collaborating or is not giving us support, and then we can take it from there.
All right, we'll call it a wrap as regards the Benue herdsmen killings going on. Very sad story, as our heart still goes out to families of those who have lost their loved ones. And I want to say thank you to Jaiye Gaskiya for always being on point, giving us the way forward as the way the Benue State government can protect its people and properties. We hope the government agencies, those up there and listen so that we can have peace for our people. We'll go for a quick break so that we can go for the news, and when we come back, the Break Nigeria continues.
Information remains the bedrock in every stage of development. It develops both the human mind and the society at large.
Madrid region has stepped down.
It develops both the human mind and the society at large. Television Nigerian is here to avail you with that information you need for all-round development through its mind-blowing programs such as news, talk shows, health and safety, governance and politics, sports, entertainment, kids, documentaries, finance, global happenings, human disposition from childhood to adulthood. It's a manifestation of what you see, what you hear, and say. Tune in and stay tuned to TVN, Television Nigeria, broadcast beyond boundaries.
All right.
All right, welcome back. It's your Daybreak Nigeria, right here on Television Nigeria. And this is the part where we say a very, very big thank you for staying tuned. And of course, we have to cut it short so that the news will come up after this. And my name is Cynthia Agbo. And everything you do, don't forget that life is very, very sweet. So don't waste it.
I'm Anthony Momodu saying thank you for joining us. Special thanks to the entire production team for being there for us and for you for always being part of Africa's Finest Breakfast Show. Good morning. My name is Anthony Momodu.
Battle between police and Senate continues over Senator Melaye's ordeal. Presidency happy over imprisonment of Senator Nwaoboshi by court. House of Representatives summons President Buhari over insecurity. And in sports, England's Oxlade-Chamberlain ruled out the World Cup. These and many more in a moment. I am Nten Ekpang with AM News on television Nigerian. There is no end in sight in the running battle between the Senate and the Nigerian police as President of the Senate Bukola Saraki is lamenting the attitude of the Inspector General of Police Ibrahim Idris over the former's inability to reach the police boss for 48 hours. Saraki said this after the Senate resolved to invite the Inspector General of Police to brief plenary over infractions like the recent killings in Benue and the arrest of Senator Dino Melaye. He further said that collaboration with the legislature is essential to create enabling environment for peace in the nation. He added that excesses from any quarters must be prevented in the interest of Nigerians. Senator Bukola Saraki explained that such excesses must be contained in the interest of all, especially as the country is about to begin elections. The Senate subsequently adjourned plenary to visit their colleague Dino Melaye, who is currently on admission at the National Hospital. The President of the Senate led about 40 other senators on the visit, with 9 of the senators allowed to see Melaye, who is currently in the intensive care unit of the National Hospital. The presidency has reacted to the ruling of a federal high court in Lagos, which remanded the senator representing Delta North Peter Nwaoboshi in prison over alleged fraud of 805 million naira. President Muhammadu Buhari's senior special assistant on social media, Loretta Onochie, expressed delight at the news of Nwaboshi's imprisonment. In a post on her Facebook wall, Onochie described the serving lawmaker as a self-confessed thief. She quoted the senator as writing that he is a thief. The post further alleged the senator, stating that there is no way a loot is shared without the thief getting a fair portion, as whatever gets to his hands is his. She further highlighted that Senator Peter Nwaoboshi remarked that when he has looted to his satisfaction, he remits the leftover to his extended family from where it may be passed to his constituency. President Muhammadu Buhari has been summoned by the House of Representatives. The president was summoned to explain incessant killings in parts of the country. The lawmakers are asking the president to appear before them and brief them on the security situation in the country. After the break, former Cross River Governor Lambat Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. And in sports, England's Oxlade-Chamberlain ruled out of World Cup. Don't go away. Welcome to Living Treasures Academy. Enjoy a conducive and serene learning environment. Qualified and experienced teachers. Equipped computer laboratory and library. Secured atmosphere. Extracurricular activities. An all-embracing curriculum for total development of the child. Comprehensive education for leadership. Join us today from crèche to secondary levels. Living Treasures Academy, committed to excellence. Welcome back. Former Governor of Cross River State, Donald Duke, has hit back at past Finance Minister Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala over claims in her latest book. Okonjo-Iweala, a managing director at the World Bank, had said in the book, "Fighting corruption is dangerous," the story behind the headlines that Duke urged her not to serve in President Goodluck Jonathan's government in 2011. She claimed that the request was to deny the government credibility and to make it weak and unsuccessful. Okonjo-Iweala, who also served as Minister of Finance under President Olusegun Obasanjo from 2003 to 2006, said she turned down the advice which Duke allegedly claimed was coming from a group of concerned people. The former Cross River governor, however, took to his Twitter page to confirm the meeting with Okonjo-Iweala, but wondered why a private conversation between friends is being made public. Moving on to sports, England midfielder Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain has suffered a knee ligament injury that would rule him out for the rest of the season. The injury will also stop him from featuring in the World Cup. Oxlade-Chamberlain was stretched off early in the first half of Liverpool's 5-2 win over Roma in the Champions League semi-final at Anfield. He underwent a scan where it was confirmed he had sustained a ligament injury. The former Arsenal man had been named in England's 2014 World Cup squad as a 20-year-old, but he suffered a minor knee injury in a warm-up friendly and did not play in the tournament. On the foreign scene, for almost a decade, the Nigerian army have given their all to ensure that our dear country is not overrun by Boko Haram insurgents. Some have in the process paid the ultimate price, while many will forever live with indelible scars occasioned by their determination to protect the country, no matter the hurdle. Despite this, they have remained resolute and undaunted, and today, all territories the insurgents want to control of have been recaptured and normalcy restored. And now, for the first time in a long time, the end of Boko Haram is foreseeable. Therefore, the wisest thing for the remaining insurgents to do is to surrender today or face total destruction from the army. Remember, the Nigerian army will stop at nothing to ensure that total peace is restored in all parts of the country. So, be wise and embrace peace today or get ready to be ruthlessly dealt with. This message is brought to you by the Coalition on Conflict Resolution and Human Rights in Nigeria. On the foreign scene, the head of Spain's Madrid region has stepped down amid shoplifting allegations weeks after being accused of faking a master's degree. Cristina Cifuentes condemned as a personal attack the publication of a video from 2011 showing her handing items to a supermarket security guard. It is claimed she had taken 2 posts of anti-aging cream worth €35. Cristina Cifuentes, 53, gave up her master's last week when it emerged that 2 signatures on the document were forged. A prominent figure in Spain's ruling center-right Partido Popular, Cifuentes had already come under pressure from political opponents to resign because of the degree affair. And that's the news on television Nigeria. Just before we go a look at the major story. The battle between police and Senate continues over Senator Melaye's ordeal. Presidency happy over imprisonment of Senator Nwoboshi by court. House of Representatives summons President Buhari over insecurity. And in sports news, England's Oxlade-Chamberlain ruled out of World Cup. Remember, inadequacy is more of the mind. Build your mind to see no impossibilities. I am Nten Ekbang. Have a fabulous day ahead.